Can you tell me what inspired you to run for Congress?
Sure. I made the decision to run in 2016, actually before the presidential election, after my mom was diagnosed with cancer for the 5th time, and we were having a conversation about her prescriptions, and she had been prescribed a pill that was $2,500. And I couldn't believe that a pill could cost that much. And she told me at that time that that was in addition to the $800 she was already paying every month for prescriptions. My mom was on disability because of all of her illnesses. And it was really at that time where we were hearing a lot about repealing or replacing the Affordable Care Act, but we weren't hearing about the impact that policy decisions like that have on real people like my mom. I had no idea that people were paying such outrageous prices for prescriptions. And now, having been running for Congress for over a year and a half, I have talked to so many people in the district who are struggling with the exact same issue my mom was.
So what would be your solution for that issue?
Well, I am in favor of Medicare for all. I believe that health care is a right, and that in the wealthiest country in the world we can afford to provide health care to everybody. But there are also some really great policy solutions right now that we could be supporting. So there's a public option for prescriptions. There's an option to buy into Medicare without having to qualify for it because of your age. And so, and also what we need to be doing right now is allowing the federal government to negotiate prices for prescriptions and forcing drug companies to offer those competitive prices, because they're just so out of line. We don't even know how much these things really cost, and yet we're all paying outrageous prices.
So would you consider that one of the biggest issues facing Omaha?
Yeah, absolutely. Not just Omaha, but the whole district that I'm running in. I've talked to so many people at their doors who tell me that I met a woman the other day who said she's paying $18,000 a month for prescriptions for her family. She has children with special needs. Who can afford that? And if you could afford it, why would you want to? That is such an outrageous amount.
So what would be the second biggest issue facing the Omaha metropolitan area?
At the doors, people talk a lot about education, and especially around student debt. I'm on the Board of Governors of Metropolitan Community College. I serve as vice chair there. And I still see people who are struggling to be able to go to Metro, even though it's such an affordable, high-quality institution in our community. And so we have so many people that are leaving college with so much debt that they can't afford to buy a home. They're not able to choose the careers that they want to go into because they're more worried about paying off their loans. And our student debt crisis, which now we have over $1.5 trillion in student debt in this country, needs to be addressed.
So what solution would you offer for that issue?
So I am in favor of the College for All Act. One of the things that does is make two-year colleges debt-free. I don't like to say free because I think you actually need like a little bit of skin in the game, but and that's actually the way that I've run my nonprofit organization, is always requiring some sort of buy-in. But it would make it so that everyone would be able to go to a community college like Metro. And I mean, the things that we do there are so incredible because our goal is really getting people out of poverty and into quality education and then into high-paying jobs. And what we're doing with the trades is incredible. And I think Metro could serve as a model for the country.
And where do you stand on immigration?
So I am in favor of comprehensive immigration reform. I believe that our system is significantly broken, as do most people. And we need to do something. I do believe that we need to protect dreamers. We have a number of dreamers in our own community. I have friends who are dreamers who are afraid of choosing to go into higher education, or worried that at any moment they're going to no longer be allowed in this country. These are people who came here through no fault of their own. They're our neighbors, our colleagues, our friends, and we need to pass a Clean Dream Act for them. I also believe that we need to pass a permanent protected status for those here under the TPS program, the Temporary Protected Status Program, because we know that our economy relies so heavily on our immigrant workforce. And we have people who have come to this country legally, seeking refuge, who now have jobs, who now own homes, who are raising families here, and it is so immoral that we continue to separate families.
And what changes in American tax policy would you support?
So I did not support the Republican tax bill that was passed because I believe, as we know, that was a handout to the billionaires and the very large corporations in our country that don't need that. 80% of that benefit went to the very, very wealthy. And we need a tax plan that works for the middle class, where we're cutting taxes for the middle class, that works for people living in poverty. And we don't need a tax plan that simply benefits the wealthiest class, where then they're able to funnel more money into the Republican Party. And this is exactly what we've seen in this own district, was that my opponent gave a tax break to billionaires who then fund his campaign or all these negative ads about me, which are not true and actually just very anti-Nebraskan.
Where do you stand on gun control?
So the day after the Parkland shooting, my daughter Sabina, who is a senior at Central, came to me and said she was afraid to go to school. And that wasn't something that I'd ever heard her say before. And as a mom, it just broke my heart. I believe that our young people are being braver than our policymakers when it comes to common sense gun safety regulations. Sabina actually led the walkout at her school. She was one of the organizers for the March for Our Lives. And she's really following in the footsteps of a lot of young people in this country who are seeing that there are some things we could do. I am in favor of background checks, as are over 90% of Americans, mandatory waiting periods, and also a ban on the sale of weapons of war that shouldn't be in anybody's hands.
So we've discussed what you believe to be the biggest problems facing the metropolitan area, but what are the biggest problems facing the nation?
Right now, I think division amongst the parties, division amongst people is one of the issues that we are faced with. I believe our national security is at risk, where we have a president and administration that continue to alienate our allies, imposing tariffs that are hurting Nebraska's farmers and manufacturing communities, and basically just acting in a way that is fundamentally un-American, separating families at their borders, giving a tax break to billionaires, not addressing the student debt crisis, not doing anything that's significantly impacting climate change, which we know is the number one moral issue facing our kids, because we're leaving these issues for them to clean up. And so I believe right now we need to come together as a country and decide who we want to be.